Nobody told you there was a better age to retire, not your employer, not your financial advisor, not anyone on TV. They all pointed you towards 65 and called it normal. But normal is quietly costing millions of people the healthiest, most energetic years of their entire retirement. And the worst part is, most people do not even realize it is happening until those years are already gone. My name is Uncle Investor. I am 45 years old, and I study exactly how everyday people can stop working earlier, smarter, and with far more confidence than they ever believed was possible. If you want to finally understand the retirement move that changes everything, subscribe and hit the like button right now. Today, I'm going to give you one number, just one. But once you understand what it actually means for your money and your life, you may never look at your retirement date the same way again. That number is 59 and a half. Now, here is why that number matters more than almost anything else in retirement planning. Before age 59 and a half, if you try to pull money out of your 401k or your IRA, those tax-deferred retirement accounts, you get hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty on top of paying regular income tax on the full amount. That combination is expensive. Most people have no idea how much it is actually costing them to stay uninformed about this. But the moment you turn 59 and a half, that 10% penalty vanishes completely. Your retirement accounts stop being locked boxes. They become real, usable, accessible tools you can actually work with. And that one single shift opens the door to retiring years earlier than most people ever thought was realistic. Now think about what that actually means in practice. If you have $600,000 saved in a 401k and you try to access it before 59 and a half, that 10% penalty alone is $60,000 gone immediately before you even pay a single dollar of income tax on top of it. That is not a small number. That is a car. That is a year of living expenses for many households. That is a trip around the world. But after 59 and a half, every single dollar of that becomes yours to use on your terms. No penalty. No punishment for accessing your own money that you worked decades to save. That is the shift. That is why this number matters so much. Now, here is the part that most financial channels completely skip over. And this is honestly the most important thing I am going to say today. Every single year you delay retirement, chasing a little more security or a slightly bigger account balance, is a year of your healthiest, most active life that you are never getting back. There is a Stanford medicine study showing that humans go through two periods of rapid aging. One happens in our mid-40s. The second one hits in our early 60s. So if you are 55 right now and you feel strong, sharp, and energetic, do not assume that feeling automatically carries forward. The odds are not always in your favor on that one, and here is something most people never actually sit down and calculate. How many truly healthy, active years do you realistically have left? Not years of being alive. Years of being genuinely healthy. Years where you can board a long flight without pain. Where you can walk through a city for 6 hours and still have energy for dinner. Where your mind is sharp, your body is willing, and the world feels open to you. For most people, that window is shorter than they think, and it is closing whether you are paying attention or not. Now picture this. The person who retires at 59 and a half compared to the person who waits until 65. That is 5.5 extra years. 5.5 more years of peak health, stronger energy, and sharper mental clarity. 5.5 more years to finally visit the places they always said they would get to someday, to learn something new, to reconnect with people they lost touch with, to give time and energy to causes that actually matter to them. I have seen this play out so many times. Someone finally retires at 65 or 66, full of plans and excitement about everything they are going to do. And then 6 months later, something changes. A diagnosis, a health scare, a physical limitation they did not see coming. Not because they did anything wrong, just because time moved the way time always moves. And the heartbreaking part is not the diagnosis. The heartbreaking part is looking back and wondering what those extra 5 years could have felt like if they had used them differently. The goal was never to die with the most money. The goal is to live fully while you still have the health and energy to do it. Now let us talk about the retirement rule that has been quietly holding millions of people back for decades, without them ever questioning it. You have probably heard of the 4% rule. The idea is that you need 25 times your annual expenses saved before you can safely retire. So if you need $80,000 a year to live comfortably, you would need $2 million fully saved before you even consider stopping work. This rule comes from a study done in the 1990s by William Bengen, who was originally trained as an aerospace engineer. And when you are designing aircraft, a 1% margin of failure is completely unacceptable. So Bengen built the 4% rule the same way he would engineer a flight system, with extreme safety margins locked into every single assumption from the start. But here's what nobody actually says out loud. Urushio, your retirement is not a rocket ship. You can adapt. You can adjust your spending up or down. You have flexibility that no aircraft ever has. And the data today tells a very different story than the fear around this rule suggests. With the 4% rule, 2/3 of retirees end up with more than double their starting wealth by the time retirement ends. Half of them end up with triple their money. The average withdrawal rate that would have actually worked throughout history was over 6%. Let that sink in for a moment. The rule tells you to withdraw 4%. History says 6% would have worked just fine the vast majority of the time. Think about what that means in real dollars right now. The difference between withdrawing $40,000 a year versus $60,000 a year on a $1 million portfolio is $20,000 every single year. That is $20,000 that could fund meaningful travel, real experiences, time with people you love, or simply let you walk away from work years earlier than your current plan allows. And here is one final number to sit with. In only 12 out of 115 rolling 30-year periods going all the way back to the 1870s, did retirees actually end up with less money than they started with. Just 12 out of 115. Think about how conservative that is. We are talking about periods that included the Great Depression, World War II, the 2008 financial crisis, and every major market collapse in between. And still, in 103 out of 115 of those periods, retirees came out ahead. The 4% rule was engineered for the absolute worst-case scenario. Most people are never going to live inside a worst-case scenario. And yet millions of people are delaying their retirement by years because of a rule built for a reality that almost never happens. Now, I know exactly what is going through your mind at this point. This all sounds great on paper. But what about health insurance before Medicare kicks in at 65? What about the mortgage I am still paying down? What about supporting my kids who still need me financially? These are real concerns. They deserve real, honest answers, not dismissals. But before I address each one, I want to name something that does not get talked about enough. It is something I call the one more year trap. Here's how it works. You tell yourself you will retire when you hit a certain number. You hit that number. But now the market looks uncertain, so you push it one more year. Then inflation picks up. One more year. Then your company offers a bonus if you stay through the end of the quarter. One more year. Before you know it, 3 years have passed, then 5, and you are still sitting at that desk. The one more year trap is not a financial problem, it is a psychological one. And the only way out is having a real concrete plan that actually answers the hard questions instead of avoiding them. So let us answer them right now. On health insurance, once a proper retirement plan is built out with all the what-if scenarios clearly mapped, most people find that pre-65 health insurance premiums are far more manageable than they originally feared. The anxiety around this number is almost always larger than the actual cost. And with the right planning, this becomes a line item in your budget, not a reason to keep working. On the mortgage, if you have been making payments for 15 to 20 years, you likely have significantly more equity built up than you realize. Many retirees choose to downsize a few years into retirement and eliminate that monthly payment entirely. Others use that equity strategically as part of a broader retirement income plan. On supporting adult children, every family is different, and this one is deeply personal. But here is the honest truth. Your children have decades ahead of them to recover, rebuild, and grow their own wealth. You do not have that same runway anymore. Making your own retirement secure first is not selfish. It is the only way you will ever be in a real position to help the people you care about later. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The key is not trying to solve all of this alone. Work with someone who truly understands modern, flexible withdrawal strategies, not rules that were written in the 1990s and were never designed around your actual life. Let me share a quick story that brings all of this together. There was a man we will call Michael. For 3 years straight, Michael told himself he would retire after just one more year of saving. He kept moving the date. Market swings made him nervous. He wanted a bigger cushion. He wanted to feel completely ready before he made the move. Sound familiar? He finally retired at 62. 6 months later, he told me something that has stayed with me ever since. He said the drop in his energy level between age 59 and age 62 was far greater than he ever expected. Those 3 years were not just a number on a page. The trips he could take, the physical adventures he could still handle, the experiences that were available to him. All of it looked different at 62 than it would have looked at 59. He did not dwell on it. He moved forward and started living fully from that day on. But he said something else that I think about often. He said the activities you can do in your early 60s versus what you can do in your late 60s and 70s are just different. Not impossible, but just different. The mountains get a little harder, the long walks get a little shorter, the recovery takes a little longer, and none of that is a tragedy. That is just life. But it does mean that the years between 59 and 65 are more valuable than most people ever give them credit for. Your health is not just about living longer. It is about living better while you still have the energy and ability to fully enjoy it. Do not wait 3 more years to figure that out the hard way. So here are 3 action steps you can take starting right now. First, if you are approaching what you think might be your retirement window, do not wait until you are already there. Start building your complete retirement plan today. That means a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy, a clear investment approach, and a full tax plan all working together from the start. Not one of those 3 things on its own, all 3 together. That is what a real retirement plan looks like. Second, challenge every assumption you have been handed about how much you actually need. Run the real numbers. Build in flexibility. Spending is often higher in the early years of retirement when you are healthy and active and want to do everything at once. It typically dips in the middle years when life settles into a rhythm, and it may rise again later when healthcare costs increase. Plan for that real pattern, not some flat single number that was handed to you years ago and never revisited. Third, work with someone who understands the modern withdrawal strategies that actually reflect how retirement works today, not rules from 3 decades ago that were never built for your life. Because when you see what is genuinely possible with the right guidance, the entire picture changes. People who were convinced they needed to work until 67 discover they could have stopped at 60. That happens more often than you would think. Here is the simplest way to understand where most people get stuck. When you are young, you have time and health, but rarely enough money. You want to travel, but you are broke. You want to take risks, but you cannot afford to. You have the energy for everything and the funds for almost nothing. In midlife, you have more money and more health, but time is completely consumed by work, family, mortgage payments, kids in school, aging parents, and everything else pulling at you all at once. You finally have some money, but nowhere near enough free time to really use it the way you want. In later years, you have time and likely the most money you have ever accumulated, but your health begins to quietly decline whether you are ready for it or not. The money is finally there. The time is finally there. But the body starts sending a different message. Most people spend their entire lives cycling through these 3 stages and never once landing in the sweet spot. But there is a 4th stage, a window that not everyone finds, a period where time, health, and money all align at once. Where you are free from the 9 to 5, your body is still strong, and your accounts are ready to work for you instead of against you. For many people, that window opens right around age 59 and a half. It does not stay open forever. It never does. Do not let it close while you're still sitting at your desk wondering when the right moment will finally arrive. If this video shifted the way you are thinking about your retirement timeline, do one thing right now. Share it with a friend or a family member who is in their 50s and still working without a real plan in place. One share from you today could genuinely redirect the course of their entire retirement. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most meaningful things you could do for someone you care about. And if you are serious about building a smarter retirement, do not stop here. Go watch our previous video right now, Sell These 7 Things Before You Retire. It is showing on your screen and it connects directly to everything we just walked through together. Watch it next. You will be glad you did.